So, colleagues, good morning. And again, for those who just joined, welcome at this public webinar on unlocking PMS API potential. Today, we will be giving you an update on which are the edit functionalities and take any question you may have that potentially might clarify any of your doubts. I am Veronica Lipucci di Paola, and today, not only with Marcos as a PMS product owners, we will be presenting you an update on this functionality that we just released in September. We have also the pleasure to have the fire expert, the PMS API expert, to ideally take any question you might have, which might also be very technical. So the event will last 1 hour and a half, and it will be recorded. As usual, first of all, a bit of information. So the recorded session will be then made available on the EMA corporate website and YouTube channel. Usually takes some days, up to 1 week, to release this. And then if you have any question during this session, as usual, you can raise them via Slido. Is a tool where you can interact with the EMA expert. And of course, by using and interacting with Slido, it means that you are voluntarily giving your permission, even if you remain anonymous, to process your personal data. If you want to hear more about how we process the data, here you have the EMA data privacy statement that we use for Slido for transparency. As usual, for those who are very familiar, but maybe there are some not very familiar with the way we deal with the webinars, some housekeeping notes. You can join Slido via using your laptop. Just type slido.com and enter the hashtag API write, or if you want to be faster, use your phone and just use the QRD code that you can see, and you will be directly immediately to the Slido tool. Again, enter hashtag write API write. So you can send the question, you can upvote the most interesting question or the question you think you will be hear from us, any answer. We will do our best. Today, exceptionally, as I mentioned, we have many experts from the agency in fire, in API, so I'm glad that probably a higher volume of question can be taken and replied in right. Usually, we try to reply to the most voted questions which are unanswered. This to give the priority to those who submitted the question but they didn't get the answer yet. The colleagues in the backend will write anyway as fast as they can the answer. And then, of course, if you have like tickets, issues, or specific question that you have been raised in service desk via ServiceNow, please be aware that this usually is not the right forum to request updates, because we need to check the system and see what's the status. So if you have any question or any doubts, please use Slido. Then moving to, this is what I said already. Presentation will be made available, if not yet, on the EMA webpage, and then the recording on the EMA YouTube channel on the EMA webpage event. This is the basics. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, and probably somebody joined a bit later, the goal of this webinar today is to explore with you how the API, the application programming interface, right functionality works for the marketing authorization holders, meaning how can you submit the data, how can you access the right PMS API. Of course, there is a chance to give you a big, deep knowledge of which are the step-by-step activities that you need to take in accessing, in navigating, but also in the way you can use API right. There will be a demo, so you can even have a better understanding on how this works. You can have a bit of insights, especially for those who are not familiar from industry stakeholders, why we have been released the right API on the core principles behind the data submission. So why we need you as an industry marketing authorization holder to submit a bunch of data as authorized into PMS. And then, as I said, there will be a chance to have and collect feedback from our experts specifically on this matter, colleagues, on the API. Agenda. Even though you may see just three core topics, it doesn't mean that they are not detailed. So we will be starting immediately with a background of information, which is not even a background, it's very detailed on which are the PMS API environment. We will be tackling not only the production environment, but also a few insights on the UAT environment that will be soon accessible for industry and vendors working for them. Then the functionality, as I said, the differences between the write and the edit, and the type of accesses, because some of you may already have access to API, but with the new functionality, you may have some questions about. Then there will be our Fire and Azure Web and Azure Cloud experts giving you deep insights on which are the functionality or the core principles driving the right PMS API. We call it knowledge sharing. This is a bunch of information that came out during the UAT and even after from the tester that we have, a bunch of questions that we have received also from them. So we decided to clarify publicly. Then we will have our sport platform architect, Andre Idu, from the agency, who will be giving you a demo on how the right API works, how you can access it, Q&A, and then we will be closing this session. So quite intense event. So first of all, we went live with the so awaited PMS API write functionality. We released successfully after an intense UAT over summer on the 25th of September, so less than a month ago, I will say. We released a bunch of communication spread all over the portals, but also our stakeholders. So these are the links in case you are not familiar or you didn't receive it because you weren't part of a trade organization. Here, all the links explaining the communication and the release made so far. Of course, with the launch of a new functionality, we also have received a lot of questions, and we also try to do our best with the capacity we have to give you support. So in case you have questions, I would really much encourage you, instead of maybe submitting a ticket that we are aware due to lack of capacity we don't address on time, join the Q&A session, and this will be an opportunity on a monthly basis for you or any interested colleagues to submit your question and see and hear the reply live. Starting from the first session. So what's the difference between read and write, colleagues? So first of all, you might be familiar with the fact that we have first released the read functionality, and the write functionality was released just this September, as I mentioned. So we started with the read release on July 24 last year, and the main scope of the read functionality is, and was also in the past, to let you retrieve your products data as structured, has migrated from the two systems you might be very familiar, which are the system XCVMPD and SciMed for CAPS products EMA database, into the PMS. So the user will be in a good position to export this data and connect the PMS to their RIM system, which is the Regulatory Information Management System, and read them. You can retrieve the data for compliance, for mapping, for starting, aligning your data and preparing your system to embrace IDMP at European level. The accessibility to this functionality was released to NCA and to MAHs, but then with the release of the write functionality, we went beyond what was the simple retrieval of data. With this new functionality, you can now update, upon alignment to your RIM system, data and exchange data with us, data that are structured, that are masterized, and of course, they are limited data for the moment, but the plan at the agency is, of course, to move towards the full data submission. So the fact that you have a write functionality, even with a limited set of products data that you can submit at the moment, is a good value because it allows you to familiarize with the system and understanding how to exchange the data. Real submission time, real-time data submission will be allowed, and for the moment, this is accessible as a functionality only for registered MAHs. Of course, the scope is to allow the full bit directional integration across the system. So these are the key parts of the API. Now, what can be interesting from you is the type of documentation that we have updated. So first of all, chapter 1, which I can anticipate a new version will come in the next week. But in essence, we have included a few technical information on how you can access the right API. These are very technical details, the protocol, the authentication, the file version that is supported, and the endpoints to access it, which is most importantly. Right API implementation guide, another very important piece of information is related to, is explaining to you how you can implement the right API into your system, and is giving you indeed plenty of information at technical level that can allow you to put this in place. So this has been updated. And then last but not least, we have also released chapter 5 with the relevant Annex A and chapter 7 to clarify few access procedure with the different rules and access level in terms of who can access and which element can be accessed by the stakeholders. So this is mostly for industry to be aware that once you grant access, even if you have your developers, be aware that the developers, in case of the API access, will have the full access to level 2. So the equivalent of the PUI qualified user role, full information, and it's up to you as an industry to develop a solution to minimize the accessibility of the data in case you want. Chapter 7, just being refined, outlines the rules on what has been migrated from which system and which are the elements that while reading API and writing data into the API, you will notice will be empty, meaning that some rules have been forced from chapter 2 because not all the information as requested and agreed in chapter 2 business rules were possible to comply while during the data submission. Now, very important part. Production, you know that PMS API has two environments. So we are talking now, we always talked about production, but now we want to introduce a new environment, which is called test environment, the famous UAT. So as you very well know, the production environment in comparison to the UAT has a different scope of use. The production is used in real life to submit up-to-date and authorized data and then to access the most up-to-date information from your site and to exchange the information with the agency. It foresees it foresees the support of the regulatory compliance and the regulatory submission of the data, and of course is accessible via authority and industry for authorities and industries. What is different in comparison to the production is the UAT environment. So we have been hearing a lot industry asking for releasing a UAT environment to let them play and test with such system. So now we are in a position to open this environment. The environment will be used merely from EMA and industry. This means that colleagues, we will have to coexist until we are able to create a separate and dedicated UAT environment just being accessible for industry only. So be aware that from November, so in few weeks, we will be opening this environment, and you will also see the traffic from the agency because we are also using this environment to deploy information, to test our features and our user stories. You can use it as a training, to test, to play with the system and see if the solution that you have developed and applied to your RIM system or from your vendors is working or not with any risk on unintentional submission of data. There is a value as usual, so please follow the documentation that we're planning to release soon, and also the chapter 1 and the process that we're about to release. Now, talking about production, how can you access production? So don't confuse the processes between accessing PMS production and PMS test environment. There are two different procedures that you need to follow. Production, you might be familiar already, I would expect, but in case you are not yet, please be aware that you need to request at least one well, we suggest always having 2 admin user per org ID. The very first one is always approved by the agency. And let me use a laser so you can follow this part. We always approved the very first one, and the second one is approved by the rest of the org admin that you have internally. Once you have the first administrative user from industry, you can request only this role, and you need to request this PMS Industry API user role. This means that according to level 2A, the full access to the full datasets, you have already embedded the right capability into your even previously being granted role. There is a slide explaining that on the differences in case you have already this role or you still have to request it. So it's very important. Please be aware that for NCAs, only the read functionality is available. They don't have yet the capability to write because we are still in discussion with the regulatory optimization group, and in terms of the TOM, we still have to agree on the processes. This is the usual slide I always explain. I will be very fast. It just tell you whether you have already an OMS registered org ID. If not, please request it. Then create an IAM EMA account management user account. Make sure you can log in and start the process for requesting the admin role. In case you have already or you know already who is from your company, please, my suggestion is to make sure or write a procedure working instruction that you are very well aware who is the administrative from your organization, because you might come from a big pharma and we have noticed cases where you are not aware of it. Then start and request your role as an API access, API industry access, and then you can start logging. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It should have been blue, this part, which is the API. Apologies, I will correct it. But this is always the same process. This has not changed. Now, what can cause maybe requires a clarification from our side. So for those colleagues who already have requested a PMS API industry role, so since the go live in 2024, you don't need to request anything. The right privileges are already embedded in your existing user role. You don't need to do anything else in your EMA account, and your API role name will remain the same. So you have both functionality working. For those who want to start approaching the PMS API in general, the right, as I mentioned, is already embedded. So you need to follow instruction in chapter 1. You need to follow the registration process exactly as per your colleagues, and you will see the same name. So please be aware that the fact that you have SPORE access to SPORE V1 API for OMS or RMS or the SMS API, it does automatically imply that you have access to PMS API. It's totally different process and therefore the role. So that's the reason why you need to request a different role. Now, step by step, how can I access the test environment in this case? So first of all, you can take a screenshot, or if you're really in rush and requesting role. If not, this will be published soon. You need to register again on the EMA account management for production environment, colleagues. First, always the production. After 1 hour, the production environment synchronized with the EAM test environments, and then you can start logging in the EAM test environment. You can request the PMS industry super user role. You of course need to select the organization, you need to select the type of user, you complete the registration, and then you submit your request. What will happen will be that an authorized EMA administrator will receive your request and will approve it. You will be automatically then notified via email. And once you are notified, you will be able to, again, via AIM test environment, re-accessing your account and request the API access. You need to accept, first of all, the general terms and conditions for use. This is very important, otherwise you are prevented to proceed. You fulfill a digital form that contains a bunch of requests like select the PMS which application, PMS API, okay, org ID, tell me which org ID, API technical contact email, so to which email do you want to receive the secret credential, and then the PMS API role always to be specified. Once you have submitted, the system will automatically grant you the access and you receive an email straight away with the credentials. So it's very important, this process, and please be aware that we have created dedicated documents that will be soon published by the 3rd of November, which is the date of the release of the UAT PMS API environment. Fresh from the press, 30 minutes ago, I got a notification from our colleagues that actually this document is about to be released by next Monday. So actually you will be able next week to access it. And it's very important that you consider that once you have access, you will see some traffic from the EMA. It means that we are coexisting and we will continue to share a bit this test environment until we are able to create a dedicated system for you only. So please take this in mind. Now, in case you still need to align your system, of course, you will rely on your developers, which might be internally or might be a company from external as external provider. So in case you have developers or vendors, please be aware that these systems, both of them, can be accessed by developers and software vendors or your internal developers, but in this case it's from the internal company, so it's not really a big deal. They can work independently. In this case, they can only access UAT environment. We will be creating fake products just for them to start playing with the system and develop their solution. And then there will be, or otherwise, if they're working on behalf of authority or industry, in this case, industry for the right only, they can access both environments. How does it work, the access to environment? They will have to request, they can request access based on the situation, as I mentioned, to production or test. For those testers who contributed to test indeed the functionality on the right API in Q3 this year, so over summer, please be aware if you are joining this event, you don't need to request again the credential. Your credentials are still valid, so you can already access, once we will be opening the system, the UAT environment API. Once you receive the access, the PMS API level 3, level 2A or 3, depending on who is requesting access, will be automatically fulfilled. Make sure that also when you have the secret credentials that are obtained from the industry, these are shared with your clients, so with your vendors or with your developers. This is very important. There are a few important notes in addition to that only the administered users from that org ID, if you recall the process that I mentioned before, can generate the credentials requesting the API role. So these credentials will have to be shared with your developers or vendors. And the access is always linked to the at org ID level. So these are important points. Then, why we want to submit this information? First of all, you might be familiar, this is mostly for industry, not for developers or vendors. We had to release the right API to put the industry in a good position to submit a high volume of data structured via PMS, via their system connected to PMS. So we are aware that this is high volume, and the fact that the release of the API right may take like from 6 to 9 months to align to your system. So we have extended the timelines for the submission indeed of the structured manufacturer date and pack size for those products impacted by the ULCM list only, so non-caps. The timelines is extended until June 26, so next year. and also the submission for the pack size for the rest of the portfolio, so not only ULCM, and the structure, the pack size submitted via XVMPD and PMS. In this case, these are extended to June 2027. So it's important that you take these timelines into consideration, and also the time that you need to align your system internally. Now we require the industry to take an action. This is just a presentation showing the roadmap, so where we are landing, not only with industry in terms of timelines and activities, also from the NCA side, because also NCA, they are aligning with their system and trying to map all the data we have in PMS against their database. But there is also a bunch of information that we want to share with you on what we plan to do next. Then we will improve the export of the public information. We also plan to open the external public API and with a UAT in the middle, external UAT, and then this is the UAT, and then the planning of the opening into the PMS API. And then further over the years, we also have to work out on the upgrade of the FAR R5 and the full write capability. The commissioning of XVMPD colleagues, mostly for industry, it's a multi-year journey, so please do not expect that at the end of 2026, not even beginning 27, this is ready. I will stop here now, and will give the floor to my colleagues from the FAR expertise. Let me know if you want me to keep sharing the screen or if you want to take over, up to you.
Yeah, thanks, Veronica, for that. So yeah, just a few slides about the Write API, and in particular, I'm going to start by talking about the FHIR implementation guide. So FHIR APIs, FHIR technical interfaces, and FHIR implementation guides, they go together. And FHIR is a standard for exchanging data, but it also has its own standard for documenting that API. And there's a kind of a layout and a format that FHIR likes you to use, and then it means that all of the guides across all the different EMA interfaces, and in fact all FHIR interfaces worldwide, have the same format, and that gives you that extra sort of leverage. There's some more familiarity, and also you get a lot of useful technical stuff with the documentation itself. So as well as having the technical API, you have some good technical material for being able to use and consume that API. So this FHIR IG, as we call it, it's a technical document. So it's to be read alongside with the more business-oriented documents. So the Chapter 2 IG, well, the Chapter 2 guide, we might also call that an implementation guide. But a less technical one, perhaps, even though it covers some of the FHIR information in there. The FHIR implementation guide, the downloadable zip, which has been made available. It goes into more technical detail, as much technical detail as is possible, really. So next slide, please. So what is one of these FHIR implementation guides? Yeah, well, it is a technical document. There was a screenshot of a little bit of it on the last screen, and we'll show a couple of other screenshots soon. But yeah, it has this very common format, and the real benefit of it, I think, although it's not immediately obvious when you first come to the IG, you'll see tables and screens and things to read as a person. But if you discover the machine readable parts of it, and your technical people will be able to plug those machine readable sort of XML and JSON definitions into your own tooling, and that gives you this extra ability to check your own data. So next slide, please. So what's covered? So we have this general overview of the API from a technical level, and then we have these FHIR profiles, as they're called, and we'll show a view of that on the next screen. But a profile, in summary, is where you take one of the off-the-shelf FHIR resources, as they call them, the FHIR definitions for a certain concept, say for the product. And the profile means that you are making your own sort of specialized version of that particular resource. So we do like an EMA product or an EMA package that has definitions tailored to this particular, well, not just EMA, but to the actual PMS system or the EPI system or whichever system it is. So these profiles, as they're called, are a set of specialized definitions. The profile is an unusual word, but that's the word that we use. We also have extensions. So FHIR is a sort of flexible system. It comes with core material, but you can also go off piece a little bit and add your own slight specialities, because every system in the world needs to add a little bit more than just the core. There's always some concepts that are unique to each API. And then we have what we call value sets and code systems that represent the FHIR versions of RMS. So RMS is our terminology system, as I'm sure you know. FHIR hasn't sort of recreated that, but we've done a FHIR kind of view on top of that and brought those into the IG and into the API. And then we have FHIR examples, XML examples, and indeed JSON examples, but XML examples. And they were added, if you saw the IG when it was first released 6 months ago or so, you might not have seen the XML files. The version that came out around early September, 1.2, has those XML files in, so they're a very useful asset. But the profiles are really the main core of an implementation guide, as well as the description. You could say that the profiles are kind of what makes the implementation guide. So next slide, please, Veronica. Yeah, so it's important to say what you won't find in there. It is a FHIR technical guide, but you might find it hard to read if you're completely new to FHIR. So it's a document that's to be read with FHIR, if you like. It doesn't teach you all about FHIR from the ground up, because that would be too much for what's a sort of 20-page IG, if you like. So yes, it won't teach you everything you need to know to do FHIR, but if you have some FHIR training, some FHIR background material, and so on, and there's a couple of links coming up later, but it's a fairly easy thing to sort of Google. You'll need some background to be able to understand it, but you'll need the same background to be able to implement the API anyway. So it's written at the same level as as you'll need to implement the thing. It doesn't cover sort of the rationale of why we're doing PMS or anything like that. It is a technical document, and it doesn't detail very specific things like your password and your actual endpoint. Those are sort of flexible and change per system over time and so on. So those are not baked into that document, and it doesn't cover things like how many milliseconds you have to do X or Y and so on. But the broad level common technical things are in there. And as I say, it's to be read along with the sort of more sort of PDF based stuff, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just to come back to this point about the FHIR profiles, the FHIR profiles are what we say machine readable. They have parts that are not really meant for people to read, long XML definitions, structure definitions, as we call them. And they are a computer processable version of the human readable part of the specification. So you can take those definitions, plug them into your tools, and there's a link to some tooling on the next slide, I believe. And that lets you locally on your own machines, before you send the data to the API, it lets you check your data the same way the API would. So the API uses these profiles, that FHIR has these profiles, and they're a sort of configurable set of rules. They're sort of configurable business rules where we say, oh, you must have one of these, but you're not allowed to have one of these. And if you have one of these, it must be from this RMS list. So those rules have been sort of soft coded, if you like, into the profiles. And when we use our own profiles in our own validation, in the API uses those to check the data coming in, but because they're sort of configurable and downloadable, you can use those to test the data before you even send it. In prototype, when you're in your own acceptance testing, you can actually physically plug those same rules into your software. So it's a nice way to share business rules. It's much better than an Excel file that everybody has to kind of transcribe and so on. So next slide, please. Yeah, so here's just a quick, very small extract from what they might be. You'll find these in the document itself. So this, section 3.4. 1.1, it is the profile, and I've just screenshotted a small amount of it. It's the medicinal product definition FHIR resource. You can see at the top there, and that's one of the main FHIR resources we use. But you can see that the tab called differential table, we're saying here what the differences are from the plain off-the-shelf FHIR resource. So just as a very quick example, we're saying, well, there can be only 3 identifiers. So you see this word here, slices for identifier. It means we have 3 sort of chosen identifier types that this EMA PMS API exposes. And then it goes on to say that they're the NPID and so on. So it tells you which ones they are. So FHIR allows you to put 20 identifiers in if you like, but EMA say no, in this PMS, we're going to use the 3. And that's typical of the kind of constraint that we use and express in these profiles. If you try to send 4, that would cause the profile would complain about that. Right, next slide, please. Yeah, so just a couple of links there. If you want to read more about profiling and how to use the profiling, you can go to the FHIR specification at the bottom. In fact, if you just Google FHIR, you'll probably land up in the same place, and you can do some general FHIR reading. But FHIR has a lot of tooling that goes with it. You can download open source code in Java, C#, Node, all sorts of things. Very useful stuff that lets you process these profiles, turn your own raw data into FHIR for sending to PMS, and so on. So some good background there. And there's a lot of free stuff, if you like. So next slide, please. And I think that might be over to Luis.
So the content I'm about to present isn't entirely new to all of you. We presented some of these slides in March. That said, this 1.2.0 version released in late September contains a few changes, such as FHIR profile validation, updated error messages, and improved logging. So in this slide, there are 2 main requests you can execute. Get everything, which will get you the product bundle in FHIR 5.0.0, and the post merge request that allows you to apply changes on a few fields within specific FHIR domain resources, such as the medicinal product definition and the activity definition. So, although in FHIR 4.4.0 you have access to a few more domain resources, here the PMS Write API allows you to edit exclusively 4 domain resources, and these are the ones you see here: the medicinal product definition, the packaged product definition, the activity definition, and the manufacturing regulated authorization. Among these, there are 2 that you can create and delete, which are the 2 on the right, activity definition and regulated authorization. And there are 2 that, although you can update, you cannot create entirely from scratch or delete. Those are the MPD and the PPD. Within these 4 domain resources, there are just a few fields you can edit. These are about 12 to 13 fields, and in the future we might add a few more. So the user journey goes as follows. You use FHIR 4.4.0 interface because it has filtering, unlike the FHIR 5.0.0 interface. There, you select the product you want to change. If you have it already, if you have already the PMS ID, you can go straight to the FHIR 5.0.0 endpoint. Using this PMS ID obtained in 1, you can get everything, the get everything request, to obtain these resources already translated to FHIR 5.0.0. Then you apply the merge, the post, using exactly the message that was returned in 2 with a few necessary changes I'll speak about in a couple of minutes. The 4th step isn't always mandatory because, as you know, the PMS API has an asynchronous nature, which means that sometimes it can handle your requests immediately, while in other occasions it's under pressure and it has to do this asynchronously, and it needs a few seconds to several minutes. And that's why sometimes the merge operation, instead of returning you the 2 OK immediately. Sometimes it returns you a 202. And when it does, you need to do a fourth request in this case, as I will show right after. So this is the macro view, okay? Now we deep dive into the third point we see here, which is the merge. This is the macro view. This is the micro merge view. The merge goes as follows. First, you do the merge, and you use the fire message returned as to, returned in the get everything. Then you change the bundle type from search set to transaction. This is necessary for the API to understand you're attempting to update the product, not requesting its view. Then in 3.3, you need to change the entry request node of the domain resources you want to update to add the request.method put. If you want to create them from scratch, you add post. If you want instead to delete, for example, an activity definition, you add delete. We will present these examples a little bit after. So there are a few errors and warnings you might see. For example, if the version of the API differs from the one you see on the get everything request from the one you then apply on the merge, it will not work. It will say it cannot proceed. But this would only happen if, for example, you do a get everything on day 1, and then on day 2, after we deliver, we deploy a new version after 6 p.m. This will always occur in non-working hours. You will then apply that payload. So that would return you an error saying that the version of the API you used in the post differs from the one we have already on the server. So now let's check how in practice this will work. And here, this is an example of changing a package size from 10 to 20. So let's say we want to change a pack size from 10 to 20. There are 4 steps we need to execute. First, we get the bundle in 500. And you can see that you will see in line number 8 that the type of this bundle is search set. And you can see on line 15 that the version of this product is the version 16. You can also see that for now, the package size is 10 in the package product definition on the bottom right. Then you will do your merge. So you change, like I said previously, the type of the bundle. You will change it from search set to transaction to let the server know you want to apply a change. And then you change your contained item quantity there because there's a matching between that and your pack size, which you can, by the way, check in the implementation guide we released. And you need to change the request method to put. You need to add that request node you see there on the bottom to let the server know you don't want to add this packaged product definition from scratch. It exists on the server already. You just want to update it. And the method for that is put. You will either get 200 OK, which means the change was applied immediately, or you will get 202 accepted, like we see here. And in that case, it's a little bit more difficult, not very, however, because you need to grab this URL from the response header content location and then apply a new request, which you can see here. And here, when you do this request, you will know if your request was already applied in PMS. And if it was, you will get 200 OK. And the version, as you can see, was incremented to 17, and the package size was correctly updated from 10 to 20, as you can see on the bottom right. This is my last slide. The package size change I presented you previously is I would say a simple change, because you are just updating a field on an existing domain resource, which was already created, and which, by the way, you cannot create from scratch, the packaged product definition, not in this version of the API. Adding or deleting a manufacturer is slightly more complex, because you will need to create the activity definition from scratch. But anyway, this is something that is presented into some more detail in the implementation guide, and it is explained how you can achieve it. Here, the activity definition is mandatory, while the manufacturing regulated authorization is optional. This means that to add a manufacturer, you don't need to add a manufacturing regulated authorization, although that's also an option. This is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. I will be next with showing you a short demo on using the actual endpoints after the details provided by Rick and Luis. You can see that in action a little bit. I think there's quite a good detail there in the slide, so I will just focus on the flow using the different endpoints. So I hope my screen is visible and you can all see Postman. We already have available our version 3 APIs for reading data, as was mentioned, and you can find all the details about this in chapter 1, which with the new published version that will come in the next few days will also share the details of the base path and endpoints for the new endpoints for writing data. So I have here a set of credentials for UAT, and we already have the capability to search on the version 3 endpoint for searching. I'm getting a few results here, and then what we already also have on version 3 is the capability to get all the details for a product by ID. So I've done this here, and this is still, version 3 is still in FHIR R5 Review 2 format. So with this data, we've been able to read so far. Now, moving on to the new endpoints that are available. So we have also included getting all the details of a product by ID on the new endpoints, and we are putting these under the base path version 5 alpha, B5 alpha. The reason for this is that we intend to adopt the major version of R5 fully in the future, and we will have a base path for B5 there. This is current. So the same product that I was seeing on version 3, I'm able to retrieve here on B5 alpha, transformed to the FHIR R5 major data model, and also including only what is really relevant for the updates that we will be making. So certain resources such as ingredients or administrable product definition are not available on this side, and you also do not need to provide those for an update. So I have this product here. Let me extend. There are no manufacturing operations right now. I'm trying to search for operation. So I've taken this response from the get everything by product ID endpoint, and I will attempt to send an update for that. So I've pasted it here. I've done this manually before this demo, and I have included here operation information. So inside the medicinal product definition, I've added the information for operation and manufacturing business operation, and then in the new resource activity definition included when the start date is, what type of manufacturing activity, and what is the location where this is happening. As Luis was sharing, I've included, as opposed to just the read endpoint of the details. I've included request information here. So I'm making a put on an existing resource with this information. And then for the activity definition itself, I am making a post on the endpoint for a new resource to be added. I'm also updating all the other resources. Another piece of information that I'm adding in another resource is in the package product definition. I am including the container item quantity, which was not available here. Let's see if that is still true. So I didn't have a container item quantity element in V5. Nor was it in the V3 section, or the version of this data line section. It should be an extension in R5 preview. So going back to the V5 endpoints, I'm going to submit this information to the merge endpoint. And if all goes well, we will be able to see the headers. So this merge was accepted now by the backend services. And in our headers, we have a content location for where we can check the result of this. So by querying this, we are actually able to retrieve the updated version of this product, which now should have container the quantity as submitted, the manufacturing business operation with an activity definition that now has an ID. I didn't show that. So we have this activity definition stored now in PMS, and it has an actual ID. While in my update payload, because I was introducing a new resource, this was referenced with UUID, which is then used as a reference from the middle purpose. Right, so now this should have been saved successfully. I will now be looking at the transaction response endpoint, but now if you go back to this product by ID endpoint in major, just do an update, the request. This information is visible here, and it will also be visible in the V3 endpoints, so the existing ones in version R5. Preview 2 in this case, so translated to that. So one example of a difference between the two versions is that the operation in R5 major is called manufacturing business operation in R5 preview 2, which then references that same activity definition. And the package data has also been updated. And another difference is we use an extension on the preview 2 version as opposed to R5 major, which has a specific field for data. And this is our activity definition with the information provided earlier. So this was in principle my demo. The idea is that you can use the search on V3. You can get information in V3, the full data that we have in PMS for a product. And then when wanting to perform an update, you do need to get the product in the V5 alpha endpoint. So you have it in R5 major already. Make the updates, submit them, and then check that your transaction has finished successfully. Apart from this, I just want to say that the V3 endpoints and V5 alpha endpoints are all accessible with the same set of client credentials. So if you already had a set of client credentials with PMS, you can use those now also for writing. If that doesn't work, please open a service desk request to see if the account was not properly synchronized. And then for any new user, any new credentials request for API use, they will include access to all of these endpoints, which are then detailed in Chapter 1 and in the UAT documentation that we are publishing. That is it from my side. Thank you very much. Sure. think we are good to go to Slido now.
Yeah, thank you, Andre, and thank you, colleagues, for the presentation. We are now starting the Q&A session. So if I may have Greta, who will kindly share the screen, we can start addressing any question you may have. Please remember to vote the question where you're interested to hear the answer, and so we can give the priority. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's start with the first question. Once PMS test is open, would be using fictitious product EMA is creating on PMS, or would we be using fictitious product we submit to XUMPD, XCOMP, which would be synchronized to PMS test for us to test PMS enrichment?
I can reply maybe to this one. So XCOMP and the UAT environment of PMS are not synchronized. So even if you make changes or submit data to XCOMP, that data will not be reflected in the UAT environment of PMS. In the past, we migrated data from the XUMPD UAT environment to the PMS UAT environment. So that is the data that is available. That means that some companies will not have products. So companies that were created after we migrated the data, or just because they didn't have data in XMPD. For those companies, we will create fake products linked to their log ID. And that is the way they will be able to test that they can retrieve data and they can submit data.
Thank you, Marcus. Do you know when the FARA version 5 API, it has the PMS API version 5 medicinal product, will be available for PMS production?
I can take this one. This is already available for in production as of a few weeks ago. So I think we can answer.
Perfect.
It's already there with the same credentials that you have been using on the V3 endpoints.
Thank you. Will the full access for read-only in PUI have export option?
So, colleagues, this event is for APIs, not for the PUI. So I would skip this question and I will reply to you in write in order not to confuse the stakeholders who are joining this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. For type IA and IA in manufacturer is approved internally on ID date. What is the deadline for XVMPD PMS update? 30 days from ID or 30 days from the date MAHs receive NC approval?
Well, I think I can. I've replied in writing. We need to discuss. Well, first of all, the deadline for XMPD is none because you cannot submit manufacturers to XMPD. For PMS, you can use the date of the NCA approval. Nevertheless, we need to discuss this with the SMEs because we know that some NCAs are not providing an explicit approval for type 1A and type 1A intermediate variations. So that's why we still need to discuss with them what is the best approach for this type of submission. We have also said that during this first period of initial enrichment, if you don't really comply with these 30 days, it is fine. We need to have the information as soon as possible, as soon as it's approved, but we need to discuss this specific point on the 1A variations.
Thank you. What is the process for resetting or rejecting API credential if needed for security other purposes before they expire?
Yes, I can take this one. So please use the service desk to make any request for API credentials reset. So in principle, you will be getting a new client secret for an existing client ID. That should also be the process for now for when they are ready to expire. So with some weeks ahead of their expiry date, which is included in the email you receive, please raise a request where we can create a new secret for you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see that this question has already been answered in writing. Do you want to go to the one unanswered already?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay,
We can take
we
the
can take it.
announcement. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's go to, let me
just colleagues for the external audience. I am archiving, but we will be replying in write any question related to PUI because this event is API related only, and I don't want again to confuse the colleagues. Thank you for the passion.
Thank you. So how about data aging in a test environment? In XCVMPD XComp, we struggle to define test cases based on completely outdated data. Will there be a periodic refresh of the data in PMS test system?
Yeah, I can also take this one. The answer is no. So this UAT environment that we are opening right now, it's an interim solution because we understand that companies need to get access to a UAT environment in order to follow their processes to put in production a system that can communicate and send data to EMA. That's why we are doing this right now, opening our own UAT environment for you to get access and being able to perform these tests and make sure that you can then comply with all your internal procedures and being able to go into production. The idea is that at some point EMA will open a specific sandbox where industry will able to get their products, they will be able to play, they will be connected to the UI. So at the end, you will be able to test and make sure you can understand the system before submitting data. So in this interim solution, we are not going to be refreshing products. We will not be updating products. In fact, we will be creating fake products for those companies without products. Whenever we start building the sandbox, then we will gather requirements and we will see how this is built. But so far, for this one, we will not be refreshing products.
Thank you. Okay, this question has already been answered. Is there a plan to allow industry to request API access for all their MAH org IDs in bulk?
There is no plan for this at this time. We can take a note for this type of enablement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we reach PMS via PMS API for MBOs and pack sizes even if we cannot see our products in PMS PUI?
I can take this one. So it depends what is the issue on the product UI. For example, if the MA holder is null or is not a lock ID, then you will not be able to see the product. If the issue is with the authorized dose form, this issue in principle was solved, so you should be able to see it in the product UI as well. So the answer is that it depends. But again, if you are not able to see your product in the API, same as in the UI, you can open a ticket and we will investigate.
Thank you. So a follow-up question regarding the answer you gave before. Manufacturer and structured pack size data can be submitted to XCVMPD because these fields do not exist there. Is the answer correct?
Okay, I think this is from, so I replied to a question. Yeah, there was a question if they were able to submit manufacturers and pack sizes directly to PMS instead of XCVMPD. So XBMPD doesn't contain the field for the manufacturers or for the structure pack size data. XBMPD only contains a couple of fields, and you need to submit there the packages. So these are all the packages for my product. Once you submit to XBMPD, these EV codes will be migrated to PMS. They will create they will be part of the same medicinal product, and only then you can go to PMS and submit the manufacturers and the structure pack size data for each of those pack sizes. So you really need to go first to XBMPD, submit the pack sizes, and then only through PMS, either the API or the UI, you can submit the manufacturers and the structure pack size data. You cannot submit these two fields in XBMPD because they don't exist.
Thank you. After enrichment via API, operation type is displayed in short in the PUI. For example, microbial testing without FAM API as their RMS terms. This is a bit confusing. Is it planned to synchronize the wording?
Yes, the idea is that we will display the short name from RMS in all the, like in the BI reports and everywhere.
Thank you. I am trying to access the PMS read API. Is there any separate process to register the API address? As I am not getting any response, I already have PMS industry user admin access, reached out to service desk, but they can't help.
Yes. Yes, we should be able to help you through the services. Maybe your request hasn't been routed to the proper team. So we don't need to register any IPs or anything. If you received the email with credentials and you are using the endpoints in chapter 1, then you should be able to access everything. Please check also previous demos where we explain how to use those credentials in Postman. There may be an issue with setting up OAuth2 client credentials there. I will check. I'm not sure if you can also. I will check what kind of tickets we have related to user access. Thank you.
Thank you. Please advise on how to access PMS API recommended tools other than Postman for EMA and any available data models.
So, colleagues, as I mentioned before, we are about to publish the updated version of Chapter 1, and which is just referring to how to request the access to the PMS API production environment. In parallel to this document, we also publish another documentation explaining instead the registration and access process for the PMS API test environment. So you will find all of this information by next Monday, from what I understood from the publication team, and it will be made available on the PMS webpage as usual under Chapter 1 section.
Thank you. Read API access to sort list, values or download the list. The API credentials are the same. Are there additional permission required?
I'm assuming you mean by SOR, substances, organizations, and referentials. So API credentials for those parts of SPORE are different. Organizations and referentials follow a specific process, which is available to look up on the SPORE portal. So in the document section of the SPORE portal. And SMS follows a similar process for getting access as PMS, and it is a different process that you need to follow. So you need to request the SMS industry API user role and then request API access for SMS as you would for PMs. And there is documentation for both SMS and OMS and RMS published on the EME website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you confirm you can't add pack size information on PPD with API? Only updates can be submitted?
I can reply. That's correct. You cannot create pack sizes like what we call a pack size is you can also call it presentations. The pack size of 10 tablets. This pack size must be submitted to XCVMPD. If you try to insert this pack size through the API, it will fail. You cannot include new pack sizes. So you go to XCVMPD and you create your pack size of 10 tablets. Then you go to PMS, this pack size will be available, and then you can enrich there in PMS the data saying, okay, this is 10 tablets with the structured data.
Thank you. We see a big time lag with respect to the updates that are submitted to XCVMPD in PMS. Sometimes the updates are not reflected in PMS at all. Will this time lag be reduced via PMS API once we start directly submitting through RMM systems?
I will take this one. I don't know, Marcos, if you want to add anything else. So the way we integrated it from XCVMPD to PMS needs to follow a certain set of business rules in terms of granularity and mapping from XCVMPD type of identifiers or IDs to PMS ones. So due to this and to the nature in which we process information being updated in XCVMPD so that we can guarantee its installation properly in PMS, there is a lag which is built in by design. So there may be minutes to hours of updates. If updates are not reflected at all, that may be due to bugs or issues, which we then need to investigate. So please, open services request if you're noticing that. Then I'm not sure if I understand the second part of the question, but if you are submitting through your RIM systems directly to the PMS API, the processing of that is significantly faster than the way we integrate from XCVMPD. There is still an asynchronous process, so as you saw in my demo as well, it takes a few seconds for the processing and then for checking the result of that. However, that is overall more consistent and lower in time than the average it takes to integrate from XCVMPD to PMS. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can add something. So what Andrew explained is how we send these messages from XCVMPD to PMS, and then we have from PMS to Iris, so it can be shown on the product UI. Currently, the integration routine is taking some time, but we are already working on the improvement of this integration. So changes that are performed in the PMS API will be shown faster in the near future in the product UI.
Thank you. If one the consultancy company which is not linked to MAH and want to develop test PMS API environment for their own RIMS solution which is under development, is it possible?
Yes, you can. You can request the access, and we will be creating a dummy product just for you to develop your solution. So it's possible. It's in one of my slides that I shared and will be published soon. Thank you.
Just make sure the company is in OMS.
Yeah, the process.
Exactly.
Thank you. So which exact rights are necessary for an NCA user to gain access to PMS API? Does it require the admin access to Iris PLM if it is read functionality only, or is simple SPOR user access and PMS API enough?
So let me clarify. For the NCA, so the national competent authorities, you can already request access to PMS API. The first step is make sure you request first the in production EAM, the EMA account management portal, the admin role, the Iris PLM authority NCA admin user role. Once you have received this role in your account, you will find in your portal to the left side a window called Request API Access. You can click on it and you will be able to fulfill a digital form when you are required to submit information just to check and receive the secret credentials. So the API PMS role is not linked to the SPOR user access. These are two different components, but in chapter 1, you can already find on the EMA webpage, PMS webpage, under chapter 1 section, the step-by-step guide for you to request it. Thank you.
Thank you. To get access to PMS test in digital form, API technical contact email will be of MAH or RIMS developer registered with MAH. Can API technical contact email will be common group ID or a single person email?
So it depends by who is asking the access. So if you are a developer not having any customer, any industry as a client, then you can register to make sure you are registered to MS and request the secret credential. But then in UAT, we will be creating dummy products associated to you. So we are basically faking that you are the MAH for fails products. If you are instead working on behalf of an industry or you work inside the industry, the pharma company, then you can request the API secret credential and include the email from your email account straight away, and you will receive the secret credential directly to your email account. For the second question, can API technical contact email will be common group or single person? I think it's single person, but I will need Andre if you can just confirm this because I'm not familiar with the type of emails that you might receive. Do you receive grouping emails?
It could be any valid email.
Okay.
That the requirement is that you are able to check that email regularly, because there may be other communication coming on it. So it's up to you.
Thank you, Andre. And I think we lost Greta the screen. I think there was another question. Maybe I can read it unless you can share the screen. If you're able to put it back, it would be great. Otherwise, I read the question. So products are, yes, I'm reading the right one. So products are in the PMS system. However, pack size is still missing and concatenation of manufacturer in the system rights. Data are not available in SIAM and XCVMPD and not loaded. Do we have to first enter pack size before we can fill it in? So the answer is yes. You need to create, first of all, the pack size, the packages entity in XCVMPD. There is a very detailed and interesting training that Marcos gave 1 year ago and is recorded and published on the PLM webpage under training session that explain how you can submit the packaged product entity into XCVMPD. Once you submit them, you will be able to retrieve in PMS directly the products, the PMS ID, with the pack size already available info package description. Then what you need to do is to access PMS API or PUI, depends what you prefer, and then fulfill the PMS data model with the missing information at the pack size level, so including the units and the unit of presentation and the value, numerical value, and also the manufacturer's data. Last but not least, colleagues, fresh from last month, we have also enabled the submission of the data carrier identifier. This is an extra thing that you can submit, even if it's not part of the scope yet of the scope for the ESMP submission support. And I see another question, because I think, Greta, you cannot share it. The user is saying, enable to export OMS list via A7 is currently unavailable in document list. When does it get updated on a daily basis? So unless somebody from my colleagues at the agency knows the answer, I feel this is an OMS related question. I don't really know. I should check with the OMS business lead. What's the issue? Worst case scenario, you can submit a request of information via Snow tickets to get this answer, because it's really seems OMS related. I don't see any. No, we have one more question.
Veronica, sorry, you should have the role to present. Maybe if you can present, even it's not the normal way of a slide, or maybe it helps a bit to see the questions. Maybe I can try to put them on top so you can see them.
Because I'm preparing for the next webinar. 8 minutes. 1 second. Okay. Let me share. I hope you can see the screen. 1 second. Present, right? I need to say present.
Yeah. And I will be putting them on top of you.
Can you? No, maybe you can't. I cannot share. Content sharing is unavailable.
Okay, then sorry. Yeah.
If somebody can give me the co-host role or something to present, I can give. But otherwise, I can read the question. There is just one more, and is there a specific access profile plan to the developed for vendor having to facilitate the data management for multiple customers? Access profile plan to development for. I don't know. Does anyone has this answer? Otherwise, we will write down the answer afterwards. This is the last question. I don't see colleagues. No? Okay, colleagues, then we will write down the answer, and if I may have the privilege to present, I will give you a few information on the next event, or whoever has the access to present, because I don't. We need the visual graph. Can anyone present, colleagues?
Yeah, so someone should be host, maybe Marcos.
Let me check. Sorry, I'm not that good with this. Yes.
Okay.
Veronica, I have made you present.
Can you present? Yes, because I can't. Oh, no, I can now.
I have made you present.
Perfect. Thank you. So, colleagues, what I wanted to let you know, we have 4 minutes because we closed this event. Thank you very much for the interest in joining. As I mentioned before, we have a bunch of Q&A clinics on PMS, on SPOR, on XCVMPD. It depends where you're interested on, but in case you want to hear more clarity from PMS, the next one will be on the 18th of November and then on the 18th of December. Then we will have to work out identify a few new dates for 2026, but you can already register in the link that is made available. There is a little bit of description on what's the scope of each Q&A clinics based on the service that we provide. Everything is connected, so maybe there might be a value also to join the other clinics from SMS, OMS, RMS, and XCVMPD. Then, to stay up to date and tuned with our changes, especially with the data quality changes, please be aware that we have a document called Q&A document from PMS. This is constantly updated. The last version that you can see is from June 2025, but I think this week or the next one maximum, we will be releasing an updated version. Why is important to keep an eye always to this document? It's important because we have data quality to be fixed, some issues to be addressed at the level of the PMS development phase. So this document is the only way that we have to promptly keep you up to date, so you can avoid submitting ticket asking for updates on a specific issue, because we have a huge backlog and a very limited capacity between Marcus and I and one colleagues to address the tickets and the issues. So please have always a look to the FAQ document, and then join us really the Q&A section clinics, because it's the only way Marcus and I can reserve a bit of time to address immediately your questions. It's much easier for us instead of writing answers in ServiceNow. Then again, last but not least, you have plenty of opportunity to join and to stay up to date with us. First of all, PMS news page, you have links available in every section to stay up to date on what we're planning, the new events and the new communication, which sometimes struggles to reach everybody. To facilitate the whole communication, you can subscribe to the PLM newsletter. It's dedicated to the PLM portal, meaning that EAF, PMS, MP, PY, and EPI, are mostly included in terms of news, but it's still a good meaning to get updated on these projects. We have plenty of webinars, plenty of Q&A clinics again, FAQ document I already talked about. Please keep a close eye on it. My suggestion is to save in the hyperlink in your internet account, so you just click on it and you find the most updated version. Quarterly demos are mostly for those who are interested to see which are the new progresses that we're making, a system level, of course. And then PMS webpage, the typical page that we have. Here, if you want, you can already subscribe to the PLM Insight newsletter, the one I was mentioning, or click on the link. I'll leave it here because I think that the next slide is just about thanking you about staying with us and being up to date. I'll leave it here. And I thank you very much for joining. This is the end of the section. You will find the recording and the presentation being made available maximum in 1 week, we hope. Always we are subject to a queue from the EMA publication team, so please bear with us to let us release the presentation and recording. Thank you very much, colleagues, and have a good rest of the day.
Only one last note. Please note that we have opened the survey satisfaction for the webinar. Do not forget, please, to provide your feedback on it. And it's on Slido, so the same QR code as before. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.